John obviously doesn't know the theme.
I don't know it at all. I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Halloween.
That's the Halloween theme. How are we?
How are we?
No, Aaron. I tried to call him. I tried to get him on Skype, but
Completely unreliable.
it's well. He had no plans. He had no.
Sure.
There's no. He didn't fall through exactly, but you can't.
Okay.
If you do want to get him on the phone, we all know that's not going to happen.
Impossible.
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 We had a thought for this year. The reason we're doing this, as though we're obligated to, is because we love Halloween, and we thought we would record a Halloween podcast for y'all. And I say we post it Halloween Day.
Okay.
Give them something to listen to at work or something like that.
All right.
Get through the day. We had a thought.
A what?
Haunted hunts, food fuck-ups. Only the scariest stories of John Hunt's...
Apparitional appetizers.
Now, look, I have legitimately scary restaurant experiences, like
Yeah.
spooky.
We just start with those.
And then I have just ones that are spookily terrible.
Yeah, like it's so awful. It's ghoulish.
Just ghoulish.
Why don't you start with some of the scarier ones, and then we can even move into. There's
Sure.
been some murders at restaurant. We're gonna keep this restaurant.
yeah.
And we can talk about all that kind of stuff.
This is going to go on the Food Network. Is this who we're trying to get this out to? That's why this is food themed.
This has a lot of niche appeal right here. So let me tell you about my scariest restaurant experience ever. And this goes back a number of years now. And I was working at a place in Tiverton, Rhode Island. My first real job, and we had just got this huge contract. And so the boss decides he's going to schedule us a nice fancy dinner, take us out for dinner. So he picks this place in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. And we go, and I can't find the place. I'm looking for a restaurant. I just can't find it anywhere. And then I see this little kind of creaky, hangy sign that's just like next to a stone wall, and there's no buildings near it. And it's a really long, fancy driveway with like a rusty iron gate, And I'm drive back, and it's like a house. It's a mansion that's set like 200 feet off the road in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. And it's got like another little sign, and it's the restaurant. Apparently, it doesn't look like a restaurant; it looks like a house. You go in, it's a house. Clearly a house. You don't see any tables or chairs or anything.
An abandoned house?
No.
Okay.
It's
a residence potentially.
It's a residence. It's decorated in kind of that 20s style.
I was going to say, is it period? Is it like
it's
everything's
period?
old?
It's clearly aged. It's like it's not aging that well, And there's an old man like standing in the corner who like comes out and it's just silent. It's completely silent except for me like opening the door.
Is this a restaurant that your boss had been to previously?
He had not been. He just looked for kind of fancy upscale restaurants in Portsmouth and picked out this place. And so the man comes out.
This is prior to Yelp and stuff where you could actually verify.
Oh yeah, this is like 2001. So we're still
word of mouthing it.
We're still word of mouthing it. And he leads me through like a parlor, like it's set out, and into a dining room. And this dining room sits like 14 or 18 people. Some of the folks from work are already there.
Like dining room, like one long dining room table?
Yeah,
like
it was just like a maybe a 14 by 18 room, pretty big room with a dining table set in the middle, like 18-foot ceilings. Yeah. Ridiculous, Silent, completely silent except for the creaky floor. And the thing is, when you're in a restaurant, or this isn't really a restaurant, but when you're in you're dining, it's supposed to be kind of like jovial and
celebratory.
There was nothing about it that was it was just very silent and eerie. And so we don't see anyone else. Eventually our party comes in. The only person we see at all is this old man who's a little decrepitly old. He's like kind of, he's
butler
brings out he's butlery. He brings us menus. And the boss makes a speech, but none of us are really. We're all kind of just like a little discontent by this whole experience. It's just really it's quiet. There's no one else anywhere. I don't know really what else would sit if they possibly did, if they had like other dining rooms.
How did he hear about this place?
He heard from someone.
Like, you gotta eat here.
Yeah. And the menu was one page kind of thing.
Yeah, it's clearly a private dining experience.
Yeah.
Like one private party at a time.
It was dark, and it was not like joyous in any
Right.
way. I don't know quite who would
Not anywhere
who
you would
benefit
want
from
to
this.
eat here, unless it was October and
Yeah.
you were looking for
And
the
it
spooky
was
edition.
it was just the whole thing was just so strange and so like kind
You
of
felt
upsetting.
unwelcome.
Yeah, and especially the silence, because when you're like there was like 8 of us, we were eating, and it was just when you're like eating food, you just engaged in the task of
Right.
eating, and it was just silent except for like the old men who would come over and like creak across the floor and fill our water glass.
So the real question is, how was the food?
It was okay. It wasn't like anything. It wasn't anything fantastic.
Right.
But the whole experience, especially as it got darker in the evening, it was just really kind of creepy and upsetting, and I would never want to engage in that experience again.
I wonder what they're doing now.
I don't know. I know where it was. I don't know if it's still a restaurant.
They're
though.
murdering hitchhikers.
Yeah. Spooky.
Positively. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Chinese place that we shot in. It's actually for a second.
Oh.
We showed up, and
That was creepy.
it seemed as though it wasn't a real restaurant, because we were like, "Can we engage in your patronage? Can we,
we
buy
buy
something?" They
food?
were like, "Well, not really." They obviously lived upstairs from the place.
Yeah.
And just kind of like it was an afterthought.
It was kind of funny at first, and then like the longer you stand there, it just becomes awkward and unfunny. And it goes from like awkward to, yeah, kind of just upsetting. Like just gutturally, this isn't right.
Yeah, it's really and you make whenever I'm in those places, I always make like wonder about certain things. Like, do they just throw out food? Do they have food? Can they cook me anything? Is it
Right.
just illusion?
Right.
Ghoulish.
A lot of what kicked this off was so I guess all right, one of the restaurants I used to go to as a kid all the time, like whenever we would have the day off from school and my mom would be like, we're going to take your kids out to lunch, it was always Friendly's for some reason. I don't know if it was just because it was like this kind of broad New England lunch style
Sure,
restaurant
sure.
that ends with
Or if your
ice
mom is
cream.
just that wholesome.
Yeah, because it's like, for anybody who doesn't know Friendly's, like who lives a little further away, like I don't know, it's like 50s. They want to like be a part of their 50s roots.
Yeah.
But as I got like older and I got a car and I started going there still with friends, like it was always like the place to go with friends for some reason. A lot of people went to Friendly's. It got suckier and suckier,
Worse
and
and
suckier.
worse. Yeah.
And like it got to the point where it was hilarious. like you couldn't believe how consistent, like, because if you have an experience, it's like, all right, man, like I waited here for an hour and a half to receive the wrong item,
Yeah.
and everything's dirty, and I'm being treated rudely, and the place is packed, and or it's not. Like you'll get the same results regardless of what that situation is.
Yep.
And then like you're like, I just want the check, and you're just sitting there in check hell trying to get
Yes.
out of the place. You can't even pay.
Yeah.
You start going up to like the front desk. There's no one there. and
Everybody's ghoulishly absent.
and then we were like, maybe when you have an experience like that, you assume that it's just once.
Yeah.
Then you do it again, and it happens again. The same if not worse. And then you're just like, fuck this. I don't need this in my life. And then a couple of years later, we tried it out again. But we were like, never again in Dartmouth. We're gonna try a Friendly's someplace else.
Yeah.
Because I like Friendly's obviously is shitty chain food, but like there's the occasional menu item I like, and I like their desserts, and it's still like one of the top brands in New England for ice cream. So, the other restaurants were just as bad.
Yeah.
Like it was the same sort of thing, where it's like, what the hell's going on? And so we were just like, fuck this. We're Friendly's. Something happened to Friendly's.
Yeah.
It got shot in the leg.
Yes.
Nina
Ruined.
informs me one day, it was something she was listening to on NPR. They've replaced their CEO with the guy who resurrected Au Bon Pain in Boston, and he also, I guess, like really kind of launched Panera Bread in a lot of ways. And or at least he got it like really popular. That mid, like, because Panera Bread takes in a lot of money because it's fairly expensive for not that great food.
Yes.
And a lot of people go.
It's pretty good. It's not bad. I mean, it's got decent bread.
It's overpriced
Yes, absolutely.
for what you get.
Yep.
But that's the thing, is like for some reason, like it's just good enough.
Yeah.
So this guy, like I read this big long article about, it was like basically we got shitty, then people stopped going, so we had to cut more, so we got shittier, and now we're in this total hell, and like it's really dirty. And he was like, but I really think that we can bounce back because a lot of New Englanders want Friendlies to be successful. They want to go back to Friendlies, and I was like, that's me.
It's kind of back from the dead.
Yeah, it's true. It's what's the term? It starts with an E. Exuding, not exuding, obviously.
Effervescing.
They use it in warm bodies. They're like
Exhumed?
exhume.
Exhume.
We're exhuming
Ooh.
Friendlies. Whoa. So yeah, he's like, I want to fix this, and basically he's like, I'm gonna replace the ingredients. We're gonna get fucking quesadillas off the menu because
they're gone.
They were wasting our time and causing us problems. And what else? We've been jipping everybody on ice cream portions, and they really were. They would the glass was like a trick mirror.
It was so thick.
Yeah, it was a super thick glass, and so you get really lousy portions. And of course, everything takes forever and shit. And so I don't know. I was like slightly encouraged. I was like, maybe they'll bring Friendlies back from the dead. And so they re-outfitted all of the ones that were in highest danger.
Yes.
And so guess what? The ones that were around us got
Indeed.
re-outfitted. So we went last week, and it was definitely better in a lot of ways, but they still took forever to get things done.
Yes.
And that might have been because I ordered something that had a lava cake, because we only went out for ice cream.
Now let me tell you, I've been back twice since then.
You
Oh,
have?
Jesus Christ.
Twice.
Holy shit, that was last week.
I know.
And
I have mixed results to report. And so Matt Zager and I went one night for ice cream. And I ordered that thing that you got because it looked delicious.
It was good.
Came out instantly.
To describe to the audience,
Yes.
it's like what you end up with is 5 scoops of Hunka Chunka PB fudge.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's Elvis
I
themed.
think it's three scoops.
It's only 3.
only 3.
But you
It's
get-
plenty.
And then various piles, 2 piles of whipped cream. Might
2
be
piles of
throwing you
whipped
off.
cream.
And you get these 2 little lava cakes, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what I got?
Oh, one
One
little
little-
lava.
One
cake.
modern.
It was a lot of food.
medium-sized
Yeah,
is the point.
it was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that expensive.
No,
When I got it, the presentation was completely different from yours.
really, not as good.
No, delicious. Instead, they like flooded the bottom of the plate with peanut butter sauce. I don't think they did that with yours.
There was a lot.
There was okay,
Yeah.
maybe it was. Anyway, so we got it, and Matt got a sundae, and it was good. It was good. The waiter was surly, not very nice, but that's okay.
Oh, really?
You know, he was just he was clearly pissed off about life.
NPR, the article I read, said that they're no longer called servers; they're called memory makers.
Oh dear.
So did he make you a memory?
He made me a memory, and I went back and filled out the survey and said,
This was at Dartmouth?
This was at Dartmouth.
Yeah.
And then last night, my father and I, after trying 2 restaurants unsuccessfully because they were so damn crowded, went to Friendly's, where of course it was not full. It was getting there.
How'd they do?
Pretty good. We went for we got food and ice cream.
The real question for me is like, because they haven't seemed to solve the problem of like, this is cheap, shitty food. I've ended up at Friendly's. I get it. Get it to me fast. Like why?
To be honest, when we went for food, it was pretty well paced. Could have been a little quicker, but the server was good. The check was there, so it may be on its way.
That's good. Because you don't want to sit there waiting as though you're at fucking like some 4-star restaurant.
Exactly.
Because you'll wait for that.
Like you're at the scary place in Portsmouth where
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're Friendly's, you're there to die. So get on with
there
it.
to die.
So I'm encouraged, hopefully by them. But yeah, they were that reminded me of some horrible. I would say the other major one is Olive Garden in terms of like it's like just miserable.
But for some reason, people don't stop going to Olive Garden.
I know. Well, for a long time, it took a long time to get people out of Friendly's.
Yeah?
I used to always drive by it and be like, it's still packed.
Because,
It sucks ass.
because it's children and old people.
Yeah.
And people don't know
my
where
God.
to take their kids
It
because
really
nobody tolerates
was.
screaming kids like they do at Friendly's, apparently.
It really was all children. Like every party had children in it. It was kind of
Yeah, every time I've ever gone to Friendly's, it's like they really allow the kids to scream, yell, kick. Like,
Well, I don't think you're going to have a lot of other diners complaining. I think that's become expected. It's become a place where a lot of people take their kids.
that's
so,
fine. That's why I'm like, well, let's just get the food fast then, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't remember specific instances at Olive Garden. All I remember is being like, it's that same sort of like, I'm stuck here now.
I
live
can
here
tell
now.
you some serious. I've had some seriously bad experiences.
Let's hear it.
One time, we got seated. We were seated. A party of I think 3 of us. and no one came. Like no one came to ever like offer us service of any kind after that.
Was it like in any? What were other people getting service?
No.
Oh,
There was like it was like a whole corner, and like people were various states of meal. You know, some had drinks, some had their meals, and we sat there for 40 minutes, and there was nary anyone in sight.
that's pretty optimistic.
Yeah, well, nowadays I would
15 minutes in, I would have done something,
yeah,
or I would have left.
But nowadays, I don't know why we just sat there, but this was a while ago, and I had more tolerance, I guess, for not wanting to mess up the system, whatever the system was.
That was in Olive Garden.
The system of non-service, yes.
I remember I went to Lebanese Pita Pocket one time when they first opened. I think that's what they were called. And there was absolutely nobody there. So I actually went into the very back, the very recesses of the restaurant.
No. You went to
Or Crazy Doughs? No,
yeah, DP Doughs. It was it was a calzone
That's
place.
right,
It was
right.
not the Lebanese Pita Pocket place.
I went into like their, like way in the back of the restaurant where I have no business being, and I was like, I'm a customer.
Did anyone come out?
Yeah, they're like, oh, sorry.
That's high.
I have an actual like spooky non-service story for later.
Hit us with it right now. Don't
Yeah.
leave me in suspense.
So when I was in college, I hung out with these two
Just got
particular
cold in here.
ladies. We hung out all the time, and we went to the Galleria Mall because at the time it was the mall, and it was still a valid
place
mall
is spooky.
shopping option.
For those who know, like the Galleria Mall is if you live in our area, I'm sure you have a mall like this yourself. Like it's the mall you drive to.
It was the destination mall. It was
Yeah.
like how people go to New York City to go shopping for Christmas. They would go to the Galleria
Right,
Mall for like
exactly.
holidays, special gifts. They wanted something
Kind
special.
of like 30% on the way to Boston from
Yeah.
here. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's not a long drive, but it's a little drive.
Now it's half empty and full of dentist offices and
It's an
Very
utter
sad.
failure. Yeah.
empty storefronts.
Spooky.
So we went to the mall and then we were going to grab food. We decided not to grab food in the food court because we had been driving around Taunton, which none of us had ever done in the past, and we had seen like this diner. And one of them decided they wanted diner food. They
Yep.
wanted an omelet. So we go to the diner. We are the only people in there at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. So we're already like, ooh, something's weird.
Yeah.
There's two people in the diner. There appears to be one cook in the back, kind of a youngish man, like mid-20s.
Yeah.
And then one waitress, kind of a youngish woman, mid-20s.
Yep.
Takes forever for her to come over. Takes forever. Drinks. One of us tries to order something. She suggests we don't. And we're like, do you not have it? And she's like, no, you just shouldn't get that. She's very kind of sullen.
Oh
Wow.
dear.
Okay. She brings our food back there. Upon bringing our food back, she gets into some kind of altercation with the cook in the back. They're arguing over our order. We're all feeling like super uncomfortable, like perhaps
Yeah.
we shouldn't have come. Things have gone badly.
We should just give up.
All right, fine.
Excuse me.
Food comes. Food's okay. It's just kind of standard greasy
Yeah.
diner food. Upon bringing like our dishes like back, there's some other altercation, some kind of argument in the back kitchen, which we can hear
Yeah.
about like shifts and hours, and he shouldn't even be there, and she's always giving him shit. And okay,
Whoa.
she comes back again, crying in tears. Leaves our check. One of the girls asks if she can pay with a card. The waitress says, "Yep, absolutely. She'll be right back to take it." Gone. Like it just goes quiet. Cook is we stop seeing where
Yeah.
the cook is. We stop seeing where the waitress is. There's not that much space. Like you would think you could see them. We're like trying to look back into
Yeah.
the kitchen. Like after 20 minutes of sitting there, her never coming back to take the card, I just put down extra cash for the other girl I was with, and we left. Again, trying to look back in, like almost stepping into the kitchen.
Yep.
Did not see them. Took off, went home. 2 weeks later, we decide, let's go back and see like if anyone's there, if that's like a valid place.
Yeah.
Closed. Closed sign on the window.
Whoa.
Wow.
I never checked again after that, but it was like a Friday afternoon and this place was closed.
Hey, I got one along those lines. It's not quite as scary. That one's pretty good. But it's still kind of a weird story. So there was this restaurant that Gary and I had been to when Gary lived up in Lowell a couple times.
Yep.
And I was up there for something else, and I figured I'd stop in. It was a pizza joint. And so I pull into the parking lot. Parking lot's empty. It's not that surprising. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Whatever. I go in. It's a like seat yourself. The sign says, and you sit down.
Right.
Just kind of wait a little bit. So I'm sitting there. Nobody's Nobody's coming over to take my order. And so I get up. This was more recently, so I'm much less impatient. 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I get up and I start looking around. There's no one here. Like, really, there's no one here. Like, there's no... I go... Like, the front area is all lit up, but I go into the kitchen. It's dark. It looks closed.
Oh, you went into the kitchen.
No, I like went around the back and I was like, hello, hello.
Yeah.
There was no one in the place.
That's what we did. We were like, hello, and I think one
Yeah.
of them even remembered the waitress's name and was like, Denise. I don't know.
Yeah,
Denise didn't like nothing.
I feel like nowadays I would just, as soon as it looks like they're closed and I shouldn't be in there, I leave.
Well, for us it was mid-meal.
Yeah,
It was,
well, I can understand, but like this, it was 2:00 on like a Thursday. The hours were clearly okay. And
Sure, but you gotta want to go to the place pretty badly to like.
yeah, well, you know, I was
What were they
hungry,
serving?
you know,
Just pizza.
Good
Yeah,
pizza.
go to another pizza place.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, after that, I like awkwardly left.
There's nobody there.
No,
And that's
there was
the end
just
of it.
no one there. Somebody else was pulling in while I was leaving.
Wow.
Who knows what happened after that?
Tell the story.
you made it out, but maybe he didn't.
I actually found this kind of creepy. Your LA hotel story.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. So being the very cheap man that I am,
Yeah.
I had to take a business trip out to California, and the week after, well, actually, I set it up this way so the week after I could attend Anime Expo,
Right.
Because I'd never been before. And you know, hotels in LA are big bucks. It's a big buck affair, and I'm really cheap. And so you know, I searched around, and I found this one hotel. 1-star hotel that was called Stay, and they had some beautiful pictures of like this little area. Check-in area was very nice. You know, it looked nice. They showed a couple rooms. The rooms looked okay, and so I go out there and I get to the place, and this is really strange. And apparently this is a thing where it's two hotels, right? It's a one hotel attached. Like they have two front desks. They have like the regular front desk, and then they have like this exclusive front desk. And all the floors are the same. Just one floor belongs to this hotel, and some other floors belong to other hotels.
Oh.
It's very strange.
That's bizarre.
And
although there is one like that in Provincetown.
yeah,
And basically one was like a cheaper version
yes,
of like the other one.
Yeah.
And
this
obviously my
was-
father always stayed at the cheaper version.
This hotel had a few rules too. Like no one is allowed in the room but you. There's only one person allowed in a room. And I check in. The check-in area is nice. It has Wi-Fi. I get up there and it's really terribly awful. It's really miserable. There's a tiny sink and a shitty toilet in the room. There's no showers in the rooms.
Yeah.
They're hot. There's one barred window, even though I'm 15 floors up. There's it's awful. And so I deal with it. It's not that bad. So time passes, a couple of years pass, and then this very hotel that I stayed in, which is called the Cecil Hotel, turns out to have a big news story associated with it, in which a young woman was found in the water tank, the very water tank that I probably showered from.
Yep.
And there's this video that's circulating online in which the woman is kind of interacting strangely with the hotel's elevator.
Yeah.
And she comes in, she goes out. The door just stays on one floor, though, because normally, it would close and go somewhere. And that is the exact elevator that I used several times. It was very rickety and lousy to go up and down the many flights. It's just very strange to see, like, I remember that elevator and that
you were
ugly
saying
trim.
she looks kind of like paranoid.
Oh, she
like
looks
she's being
awfully, like
chased
terribly
or-
paranoid.
She's like stumbling around, like kind of
Yeah.
like some psychosis, and then
Yeah,
she
we'll
just
have to
ends up
find the
dead.
video and
Cheap woman dies.
Yeah, and they don't know what happened to her. She's just kind of, and then the elevator's moving by itself, which is very scary, and like.
One of the creepier stories in this area is there's an old country buffet we frequent, or
Yes.
we used to frequent it when we were foolhardy.
We're
And-
still foolhardy.
And it was actually, I remember the reason I first started going there was because they used to give out $10 gift certificates to it if you like read a certain amount of books in elementary school.
Isn't that an awful ploy? Like,
Yeah.
oh, here, get fat.
I was like, okay. And
it wasn't like read more books; it will increase your intelligence and self-esteem.
Yes, like
It
not
was
like here's a $5 Walden Books gift certificate.
Hey, that'd be
Here, have a lunch.
basically all we know is that in 2006, a dishwasher killed his boss in the bathroom.
Yes, in the women's bathroom.
In the bathroom of the restaurant. And I have a little video of his conviction. Let's see what this is from Channel 12.
Also new at noon, a man accused of killing his boss at a Dartmouth restaurant could soon learn his fate. The New Bedford Standard Times reports jury deliberations are expected to begin today in the trial of Ryan Jones. Prosecutors say
Ryan
he beat
Jones,
and
they're
stabbed
like an
his
average
supervisor to
named
death at the
individual.
Old Country Buffet in Dartmouth 4 years ago. Jones's defense argues the dishwasher was insane at the time.
The defense argues she deserved it.
Yeah,
And
well, so he actually was convicted in 2010. And he has life sentence without parole, without
Wow.
possibility of parole.
it was supposedly like quite an event. Like
He stabbed her to death, right?
Yeah, but like
He mac and cheesed
like,
her to death.
like tons of defensive wounds, and then was it you, John, who was saying that he tried to
Yeah,
make it look like someone had broken in?
He opened the back door, which exits the bathrooms. There's like a emergency exit door, and he claimed that the person, like someone, came in through the back door and like stabbed her and ran back out.
Yeah, that's not quite as insane as
Yeah, I was
I'd
about
like
to
to
say.
believe someone who would.
Yeah.
say
Insane enough to come up with a whole
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
A lousy defense.
Yeah. But I guess that's your last. Like when you're caught red-handed, you're like, I'm crazy. It's really all you got left.
That's awful.
Nuts.
And
I definitely did it.
They completely redid the bathroom too.
Did they? Well, I
Yes.
should hope so. They're like, let's wipe clean this story.
Yes.
It's kind of a strange bathroom. Having been in the women's bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
the not so much anymore since they redid it. They did take down this little divider wall.
Yeah.
That was a little bit bizarre. Like if you were standing at the sink washing your hands, you could not see someone coming in the door. And they took that down since then,
Yeah.
I bet like
since my childhood.
to me that's the kind of thing that should like there should be a pretty serious business repercussion
Hmm.
for that happening. I guarantee you those old people and those fat people were in there on Monday morning.
I don't know. I think it was a little. There was
It-
a little lull for a while.
It was actually closed for 6 weeks.
People just didn't go
And
to the
then
bathroom.
closed for.
It was
6
closed
weeks.
for 6 weeks, and then they reopened, and they had already redone the bathroom.
But now there's no. No one even remembers the term "Old Country Murder Buffet."
Yeah, they were calling it that for a while. Like, it's a country murder buffet. It was written by somebody not very clever.
Yes.
It was
We still
injected
call it the Murder Buffet in passing.
Yeah, I do
but
like that.
just murder buffet. I'm not putting the old country on it. I don't know what the difference is between modern murder and old country murder, but
Yes.
Additionally, there was at the Oriental Pearl, which is like pretty much our Chinese food restaurant of choice.
yeah,
There was a shooting
there was.
on
Bang,
a night that Keith and I very nearly went.
Yeah.
I remember being like, "Holy shit!" Because I saw like all the Facebook posts the next morning. They were like, "Oh, come!" Like it was a really strange reaction to a shooting happening. People were like, "Come on, guys, can't even get Chinese food anymore." I'm just like, I don't know, man. That's where it happened.
And then the woman who was shot turned out to be loosely related to my mother.
yeah, it's totally crazy.
It was
I met her a number of times.
Yeah, her ex-husband, who she had said was always very abusive, and she kind of was this abused woman who didn't have any hobbies and was kind of in a shell and introverted. And then her kids kind of grew up, and she decided that was it. She was getting out. She wasn't doing this anymore. She started going out. Picked up playing pool. That's actually what she was there doing, singing karaoke.
With some friends.
She met a guy who enjoyed those things as well. She wasn't there with him that night, but decided she was leaving her ex-husband. They had separated. He went there looking for her that night because he heard that she went there to play pool and sing karaoke. Went, walked up to her, shot her. It grazed the side of her head. She put up her hand to block it, got a bullet in the wrist.
Whoa.
And then he shot himself.
Is this inside?
This
the
is
restaurant?
inside
Yeah.
the Oriental Pearl,
This
and
is,
then
like,
he
in-
died.
Like, yeah.
In beef was
Right
it,
near the Crab Rangoons.
Whoa.
it was before they redid the bar area, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But right where like
Mm-hmm.
that back dance floor area was.
I was like, holy shit. Because I just kept thinking of like Keith and I sitting across from one another and being like, oh, there's a shooting happening in here right now. 'Cause I've never been in that situation
Yeah.
before in my life. I hope I never am.
Yeah.
The closest really would probably be like the bombing 0.3 miles away from Emerson.
Yeah.
But even that was like, it felt very abstracted. Although not really, because there were police sirens and ambulances everywhere. And it was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah.
And walking the South Station was like, am I going to walk into like
A city on lockdown. Yeah.
yeah, like what am I walking into? But that was probably the closest thing I ever felt to being like, okay, I got to get out of here.
I've only felt like that, like being, like working in hospitals. Sometimes there would be like security codes where like everything would get locked down, Or there's a lot of threats against the ERs, like ER nurses always have to get escorted out, and like someone will come in, or everybody gets worried when there's a shooting because they're worried that like the gang will come to the ER.
Oh yeah.
Scary.
Why would they do that?
I mean, it's been
Is that
known
common?
to happen,
Oh, all right.
retaliatory shootings. Well, like not that they would necessarily come to the ER, but they might be outside.
But they
or-
wouldn't kill the clinicians.
I mean, if they
You
got
never
caught in the
know.
crossfire, some people have threatened to if they feel like they know too much about the
Oh, I see.
situation.
But they're like the Gotham mob, right? They're after their targets. They're not the Joker. Where
Yeah.
he's just killing people for fun.
No.
Your real life illusions.
You gotta
to
get-
Batman.
yeah, right.
You gotta
It gets like kind of crazy. Like I remember working in like nursing homes late at night with like the Alzheimer's patients like moaning and like creaking on the floors and stuff, and you get a little stir crazy at like 3 a.m. and you start thinking like shit's going on that's not going on.
The few times I visited the Alzheimer's unit, it definitely was the closest thing we have to zombies. That line we had that's in Sexually Frank is like pretty accurate, I think.
I mean, we've definitely. Aaron has, a very specific story about it. I don't remember a specific occurrence, but there's definitely like you hear something that doesn't sound quite right. You walk into a room, all you can see is like the gleam in someone's eyes.
You find them.
You
with tons of
flip
blood.
the switch on. No, well, thankfully it's not blood, but they're covered in their own shit, like all over their face.
Aaron had a big
Like
bloody
they've been-
incident.
Yep, that did happen where someone fell out of bed and they had hit their head and there was just blood all over the floor.
I just remember, like, when you watch a zombie movie, they're remembering. They're going through. That's kind of what it was. It was like we would walk because it was all locked down.
Yeah.
We would walk in. We would kind of sneak into the door where like people that don't have Alzheimer's can go in and out of freely.
Yeah.
And they would just kind of very slowly on their walkers, kind of like walker, kind of like go over to the door. It was creepy.
The stuff that's creepy that creeped me out is this. I mean, obviously it's creepy to kind of see that like shell of a person, but again, like the third shift stuff. Because again, during the day they tell you creepy stuff. You're like, you have Alzheimer's. It's bright daylight out. Everyone's eating like horrible nursing home food. It's really not scary. At
It's just
nighttime,
sad.
when it's like silent and quiet, occasionally you'll kind of have to like babysit one of them because they won't sleep, and if they're kind of left on their own, they might hurt themselves. Or so you're kind of just walking up and down the hallways with them, and they're just telling you like this horrible stuff, like people are after you and them, and the spirits are coming for them, and they've seen them at night, and there's a little boy who comes into their room and tells them they're gonna die.
And these people the nursing assistants get paid like nothing
Yes.
to listen to all this horrific shit.
To be in shit, to possibly, constantly being concerned that they're going to fall and hurt themselves, and then you're going to get in
goodness.
trouble and the person's going to get hurt, and
Yeah.
to deal with horrifying things.
Scary.
Trying to think of other things like that have happened to me. I've led a pretty insular life, though. I'm okay. Any other horrible food service stories?
Horrible food service stories. Now my brain is so locked in on scary Alzheimer patients. All the food seems so.
Well, while you're thinking, just to go back to the Old Country Buffet, I do remember I went there with my mom and sister when I was young, and they had like this kind of a private dining area,
Yep.
and it was sealed off, and they brought like mentally retarded people there, and they were all it was a complete free for all. Like they were all vomiting and overeating and screaming. It was like that movie Freaks.
oh my god.
It was crazy. It was, and I was facing towards them. My mom and sister were facing away.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was the only one. It's like like you gotta believe me and all that kind of shit. But they were seeing it too, and they were like, we can never come back here again. This is gross.
There's the horrible Burger King story.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying that mentally retarded people are gross inherently. I'm saying that when they're vomiting in front of you while you're eating,
It's gross.
it's gross, just like it would be if anybody did that. Anyway, so
There's also the terrible rest stop Burger King. I'm gonna defer.
Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
defer to John's greater experience in years
I'll look
and
it up.
ask John do you know which Burger King it is, whether it's northbound or southbound?
I think it was southbound.
Okay, because that's the one I always stop at, which concerns me. I never really stop at the northbound one to use the bathroom. I'm always coming back from Boston when I have to pee.
I think a little research is required, but I think it was the southbound one. We'll have
and
to,
same
see.
thing, I believe. I believe it was a woman
Yeah.
killed in the restroom.
Really? Yeah, I think that's right.
it happened a number of times, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
Like,
really?
It was the place that people kept getting killed at.
Also, just like Murder Buffet, Murder King. is what we...
Murder King.
Now, to be fair to Burger King, it's not just a Burger King. It's
No,
a rest
there's a
stop.
mobile.
There's a convenience store. There used to be a Subway, which they
It's a
took
Dunkin'
out.
Donuts.
Now it's just Dunkin' Donuts and Burger King.
Murder donuts.
Doesn't quite work as well.
Alexandra Zapp
Dunkin' murder.
was murdered in the women's room of Burger King's rest stop.
Does it say northbound, southbound?
Yeah. Was it someone she knew? Did she work
let's see
there?
what's
I got
going
no
on.
We
details.
need some more information.
All right, we've got his name is Paul Leahy. He's a convicted murderer and rapist.
Whoa.
Date of murder was in 2002. That sound about right?
Yep.
Yep.
That's what I remember.
She was a sailing enthusiast who had a passion for charity and yachting. He was a convicted rapist, an ex-con who worked as a fast food cook. This is like a oddly colorfully written.
Yeah.
It was unlike.
So he worked at Burger King. It
was-
was kind of horrifying.
As usual. It was unlikely that Alexandra Zapp and Paul Leahy would ever cross paths, but their worlds collided, leaving Zapp, 30, fatally stabbed in a Massachusetts rest stop bathroom. He faced life in prison without parole if convicted of murder, but claimed he never meant to kill Zapp, even though he admits he stabbed her.
I thought she'd like that.
Yeah. She seemed like the type.
She requested it when she got her fries.
She was game. It was left to a Plymouth County jury to decide Leahy's fate in a trial that began in September 2003. Zapp, who worked as a trainer for U.S. Sailing, had more time to dedicate to her charity work since blah, 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 blah. All right.
Skip the boring parts of her life.
Leahy was working as a Burger King employee responsible for cleaning and preparing the next day's meals. According to company records, Leahy finished taking a 30-minute break a little after 4 a.m. Police say that's around the time Zapp woke up and went inside to use the restroom. Videotape from a surveillance camera shows a figure hanging around the restrooms at that time. About 10 minutes later, a state trooper using the men's restroom heard... Well, that's lucky.
Wow.
Not lucky enough, though.
Yeah.
Using the men's restroom, heard screams drowned out by loud music coming from the women's restroom. He went in to investigate and saw drops of blood near the door of the restroom. He drew his gun and entered. He saw Paul Leahy washing his hands of blood,
Oh
and
my God.
Zapp slumped over a toilet with stab wounds to her neck and chest. She had already died. At the time of the arrest, police found the key to Zapp's car in Leahy's pocket. Leahy, 40, was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Oh, I have another question to defer to John's experience.
Yeah.
John, remember the haunted house in Westport by White's?
Yes.
That was torn down and now it's like
some
a
kind of
truck
light
garage
industrial
thing.
building.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do we know why that house was considered haunted? Was it just because no one lived there for years and years and it was abandoned?
The rumor was that it was built upon an Indian burial ground.
No.
And this was haunted.
That was a rumor that I heard, but I didn't know
That's
if
pretty
I didn't know if there was any
creative.
actual rumored stories that occurred in it.
No, that was just the childhood. Like,
Yeah.
oh, don't go into that house.
Now, what's funny about that, anyone who's fairly local New England, is it was a raised ranch. It was
Yeah.
not a Victorian Tudor style
no,
house.
but the weird thing
It was like
it was
built
always
in the 70s or 80s.
yeah right in the middle of other houses just like it that were
Yeah.
perfectly occupied.
You would think the Indian burial ground would extend further than approximately half an acre.
yeah.
That was a very tiny Indian
The light
burial ground.
industrial building seems to have no reports of Indian problems.
Yeah, there
though,
doesn't
so.
seem to be any haunted light industrial
That was
buildings
very
in
strange,
Westport.
Yeah.
What's weird is this guy, just to go back to the Burger King murder real quick, this guy was convicted of sexual crime. They were saying he was a rapist, dating back to 1984 or 1981, and some of his victims were as young as 13. And so he didn't rape Zapp, but he was a convicted rapist. And just a week before, it says, before Zapp's murder, the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office sought to have Leahy civilly committed in a petition filed in October 2001. A judge dismissed it, however, criticizing prosecutors for failing to include an opinion by a mental health professional.
Ooh.
So they missed that by
You can't get mental health evals in Mass. I mean, I don't know if you can get them. If you can't get them in Massachusetts, I assume you can't get them anywhere. The mental health system is broken.
These are always my favorite. The defense's case. How do you put together a case?
Yeah.
So when a state trooper walks in and is like, "Hey,
Hey,
nice
Hey,
murder."
you murdering?
he probably didn't say nice murder. He probably said, "Oh, yeah, fuck.
Dude.
Oh, dude, I just wanted to pull
dude,
over some dude speeding.
Heck it.
I just wanted to get my dunks and pull over the speeders.
Yeah.
Murder.
Pull over the spatters.
The speeders on the highway."
The defense's case. With a mountain of evidence facing his client, defense lawyer Frank Spillane did not make a case to get his client acquitted of all charges.
Instead, he said, "I'm crazy.
We're
My
all
client
crazy.
is fine."
But instead concentrated his efforts on proving Zapp's death was not an intentional act of murder. So that was the angle they took, was like, All right, maybe we can get.
I
you
just
off
wanted her car keys.
like charged with stabbing without intending to murder.
Stabbing in the chest and neck.
The chest chill area.
Spillane argued that his client's actions were in response to the circumstances confronting him. He said that his client did not plan, plot, or lie in wait for Alexandra Zapp. When Leahy was waiting for Zapp to come out of the restroom, Spillane said, he was deciding whether or not to rob her. When she came out and saw him with the knife and started screaming, he reacted by waving the knife to calm her down. Spillane said his client did not intend to hurt
Well-laid
Zapp,
plan.
and that the battle in the bathroom erupted spontaneously.
Battle in the bathroom. I'm making a short film on that.
The bathroom.
Rumble in the bathroom.
It sounds like an American Gladiator spin-off show. Battle in the bathroom.
Why are there 2 area murders in bathrooms? Why is that the case?
Well, I guess it's a little easier to do than out in the open.
Well,
Even though you might as well.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to get caught that easily.
well, if you're gonna kill a woman and they're going in there by themselves and there's not going to be anyone else in there, you don't really expect, even if a woman's with somebody, you don't really expect her to come out soon.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it.
And they also tried to say that, like, this would be tough for, like...
That bathroom is also poorly engineered. Again, from the sinks, although I guess she was on a toilet, but from the sinks, you cannot see the door. Same thing. I guess that's probably how they want it designed, so that when the door's open, you can't really see anything. But it's the sinks. It's not like it's a men's room with urinals. Like,
It's not like they can see you pee.
They were like...
PC.
They were like, some of her wounds was because she tried to defend herself.
fuck that bitch.
Yeah, it must be,
Oh, jeez.
that must be tough to hear if you're the family. Anyway, he got convicted of all charges, and that was that.
And
But
he's-
it's interesting when you're like, all right, I'm a lawyer, and I got to make this happen. All right, you obviously did it, so I'm going to just try to kind of yank back on the charges.
Yeah. Spooky.
It was spooky.
There was a stabbing at Cumberland Farms over $10. A
Right.
fellow classmate of ours.
Classmate, yeah.
Really?
Stabbed
I
someone.
wonder whatever came of that. Perhaps scariest of all, John Hunt was attacked with a crowbar in his car.
I was.
We've already told that
Yeah,
story.
we told that story. It's
What
not new.
you know what else was a big growing up? Freetown State Forest and like that
People were
like that
fucking in
reservoir area. No, they're
Oh.
they're supposed to be like satanic rituals. Did you ever hear this rumor, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, they claimed that like various like cult groups would go up there and sacrifice animals, and
Wow.
my dad used to go hiking there and was always like, if they dredged this reservoir, they'd probably find all kinds of, I don't know.
He's like, don't go there, Stotch.
I know even like in parts of Westport that we don't really consider Westport, where there's lousy roads, there's like rumors of like, ooh, this is haunted. And I know.
Our road back here in the 70s where
Yeah.
they decapitated the girl on
Yes.
that dirt road that we drive on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Every petty way.
Your dad hates that I run that road, and I actually stopped because he creeped me out enough.
What did he say?
He was like, "You don't run that road, do you, Nina?"
I thought he just meant like don't go places that are quiet and dark.
Basically, but he specifically says that road because there was a girl who was
get
kidnapped
cut off there.
and sexually assaulted and decapitated.
When though?
70s.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking the killers are still at large. He just
Yeah, right.
creeped me out enough that now I run it and I'm like, ooh, so I just stopped. But, sorry, what about the areas in North Westport?
Oh, they are just purported to be very, very scary, and we have driven through these at night, and someone at some point decided it would be fun. We were driving, and these roads are really lousy, and they decided it would be fun to pile up like rocks in the middle of the road, and so we had to get out and kind of move them out of the road.
That's how people like set you up to like rob and kill you.
It's
Yeah.
very much a
You get out of the
horror
car.
movie.
But
premise.
I mean, there was nowhere to go. I mean, we
Yeah.
couldn't back up a
Right.
mile and a half, but no one came. It was just very
Yeah.
spooky and scary.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to on this road, Robert Street. I used to bike with friends, and we went down a side road, and there was like an abandoned car there, and we destroyed it. I don't know if that's spooky, but I know.
Was it in daylight?
Yeah, and like other kids started to hear and joined in. We all destroyed this car.
That's kind of like mob mentality. That's how like you could have murdered someone that day. if you
Yeah,
wanted.
If there had been someone in the car, they would have been dead.
it was somebody was able to verify that it had been there for months.
Yeah, someone who lives locally.
And it was like, all right, let's fuck it up. And I gotta tell you, it was pretty fun. To take like cinder blocks and like throw it through the window and stuff. It was crazy though. I'm surprised we never got like, no cops ever showed up or anything. But it was way down on a side road.
I wonder if it's still there.
You go back and it's perfectly restored to its previous condition.
Very spooky.
That would be crazy. I don't know. That's probably about it for spooky happenings.
Okay.
Nina and I ran a road race this morning as costumed wrestlers.
Yeah? How'd it go?
It was fun. It seemed like we were dressed as Jeff Hardy and Cactus Jack, which are two sort of hardcore
But that was not the
wrestlers.
popular costume to be this year. Unless you were a minion from Despicable Me, you got no action.
Everybody was a minion from Despicable Me.
That must have been kind of amusing to see. Lots of minions.
Yeah, well, I liked. There were many
There's
ways.
various
to,
qualities.
There's
yeah.
many ways to do it. Like
Yeah.
so, there was some of the award winners. There was like a family of minions, and they all kind of basically just put on like big trash cans, like big cylinders around themselves. But then there were like little kids who were pretty much like head to toe a minion,
Yeah.
and those were my favorite. And then there were people that would just like they'd have like a yellow hat on with suspenders and a yellow T-shirt. And
Cute.
I'm like, yeah, fuck you. But there. I don't know. There's one woman who's dressed as a quilt.
Yeah.
But I liked her.
She
costumes.
had like a pincushion hat. Like she made like this big round, like you know those like tomatoes,
Yeah.
like those things that you put pins in.
She won
and
an
she had
award
big
for it.
pins sticking out of it, and then she was wrapped in a quilt. Her body.
Neat.
Nina
There would've been a
won.
pizza running.
Nina won a salon raffle ticket.
Yes, if anybody listening to this would like a mani pedi, if you are the first ones to email Frankie, you can have my gift certificate.
And that's true. And,
If you want to go to Orchard Street in New Bedford,
my mom got Wicked Kickin' Cheesecake.
yes, a certificate for Wicked Kickin' Cheesecakes,
Which I
are
don't
probably good.
really know what that is.
they're savory cheesecakes. So they're basically like cheese dips, but they do it with like buffalo chicken, or they have like a
not at all
pepperoni
a
pizza
cake.
flavored one.
I was confused.
They have like
Yeah.
a spinach and artichoke one, and you heat them up in the oven, and then you
It
use
sounds
them
delicious,
as
but it's not a
dips.
cheesecake.
Right.
It technically is. I mean, it's got ricotta, and it's in a cake-like shape. It's just not sweet.
Well, that's
it's
the thing
savory.
with pizza is cheesecake.
No, it's just a dip. It's a cheese dip. And I love cheese dip. Don't get me wrong, people.
I don't, so I'm gonna say
All right. Nina is no cheese dip.
this year we're giving out vegan Halloween candy,
It's
which is
true,
not as
damn it.
scary as it sounds.
Oh.
It's Twizzlers and Swedish Fish and Sour Patch Kids.
Which, by
the way, I
Completely
wouldn't want any of those.
valid candy. Well, you're
Look,
not.
Twizzler's delicious.
You're not a fruit candy guy.
That's
If,
right.
if it's not chocolate, it's bullshit to you.
We used to like when I was a kid. We would always buy candy at the beach, and
I'm not giving out pretzels here.
my sister would always buy sprees.
Ew,
Fuck
those,
off.
that is
God.
not candy. That is.
Spree is the worst.
I was like, this is gross.
That's like getting like sweet tarts. I
was
hate
like, hey,
getting
man.
sweet tarts on
I was like,
Halloween.
can we get like some peanut butter cups or something? She was like, no, sprees. I was like,
Ew.
"Oh, Jesus."
And that woman's a doctor now, so apparently, if you want your kids to grow up to be doctors, feed them sprees.
Feed them
I
sprees.
used to have a big sack of candy like any kid, and
Just all the time.
Yeah, not on Halloween.
after trick or treating.
Year round.
And I would have it for probably about a month after
Yeah.
trick or treating.
Really, I had mine for like a week. That shit went fast.
Well, I was my sister. As you can tell, we didn't really cross candy paths much. I would normally, if I trick or treated, it wasn't really like.
You didn't trade? You didn't like give her all the shit you didn't like?
Well, maybe sometimes I can see us doing that.
Where did you trick or treat? Because you lived on a major.
We didn't do it for many years, and then when I got like to be 9 or 10, I would do it with Will, and my parents would drop me off at like Tickle Road or something like that.
Yep.
Or one year, like we went with Will's older brother, which was super fun because and kind of like spooky and creepy because like he's like 16 and he's
Yeah.
taking all the little kids with him and
And he's playing that movie role of like
Yeah.
somewhat animosity to be doing it.
annoyed
and,
Yeah.
annoyed brother.
like spooky shit could happen, and then you would have to could convince him to
Yeah.
join in with you that shit had gone
He's
down.
like, nothing's going wrong, guys. You gotta.
Everything's fine.
So that was I remember that being fun. But I remember one year we actually went to Will's house in Johnston, Rhode Island, with John. We were probably about 15 or 16.
Yeah.
John's corroborating
John
this.
was
He agrees.
380.
It was way too. We were way too old to be trick or treating.
Yes.
And John especially. But John
John's gonna go this week.
John in like just a big yellow T-shirt and like big white khakis put on an Al Gore mask and walked in the neighborhood with us.
Yep. And several people like made the comment, "Aren't you a little old for trick or treating?"
And you were
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
never too old to run for office, ma'am.
I think I did say that.
I never had those horrible parents who would like take half your candy or try to like get rid of it. Like constantly, there are parents who come in who like work in and at like the office and bring in their kids' candy, and they're like, "Well, I don't want them to have too much at home." And I'm like, "Wait, so you've taken candy from them? Like they let this happen?" And that's like a thing online I read is it's like, "Well, you know, I take half my kids' candy, I let them keep their favorites." Why take them trick or treating at all? Or why not take them to half as many houses?
Look, Dina, I'm not. I think that there's some logic to that, right? Because the kids aren't going to like all the candy they're going to get. Let them pick all the things they like. They can,
I can see that with the stuff they don't like, but they'll bring in like a fairly mixed bag. Like I can't imagine what the kid has taken out of it, and they'll say like I just don't want them to have so much candy. And again, I think take them to less houses. But I mean,
bitch.
Okay, so Chris and I used to try to trick or treat like way past when it was acceptable. Like it would be like 9 and 10 o'clock at night, and like people would stop opening their doors, and we would just keep going. Like it would just see how many we could get. Like it was just sick. It was just trying to get insane amounts for no reason. There was plenty at home. My parents used to buy full-size bars, and like way too many, and then we'd have them in the freezer year round.
I always want to do something like super theatrical to the trick-or-treaters, and then I can never like muster it up. Can't muster up the courage. I open the door, I'm like, hey, and I give them candy and they leave.
Well, we have like a weird, like we'll get a few like super young ones, like parents who carry their infants just to show off the costume. And then we'll get like a couple groups of teenagers, and then
at least you get a few.
Yeah, we do. We get a few.
We haven't gotten any.
Well, most of the time you're here for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're like down like a dirt road. Like that's like
Yeah,
that's
there's no
like
way
going to
I
your
was.
creepy
We used
restaurant.
to get Eddie Nicolo. He was the only one who came.
Weren't you those bastards who like put out like a bowl and were like, take
one.
I think one year we did.
Yeah, totally. I remember being
It's
like,
kinda
these
sad,
hunts.
But I think we did have to do that the first year we were in this house, Frankie, because we were both in school and we couldn't be home for it. But I didn't just say take one. I just put out way too much candy and said,
Take all.
please have some candy. And then I came back and there was still like more than half a bucket there.
Yeah.
Those kids were honest.
All right, well that's pretty much it. That was Haunted Hunts. Fucking fuckeries.
Woo!
Haunted Hunts, Halloween Junts.
Yes.
I leave you with one thing. If you haven't, for some reason, seen the Jack Shop YouTube video, do watch it. We watch it every year. It cracks us up every year, especially if you're from Massachusetts. A lot of people, it's gone pretty viral around this area. But basically, it's a guy.
Go get your Halloween donut.
Yeah.
Go get your pumpkin coffee.
Get it together and watch that Jack Shop
Do all
shit.
the New England shit. Do your apple picking or whatever's been popular on Facebook recently. Turn on Jack Shop.
And watch the Halloweeniest movie possible. One year we watched. We were given like it was like $5 off at Movie Stop or something like that. So we wanted to just buy something ridiculous, and we bought what was it? It was like Spooky Class 2 or something. It was something really like Return to Haunted High or something.
Yeah.
But basically, it was like starring George Clooney, and he played a
Right.
security guard for about 2 minutes.
And we watched it with Kyle. Kyle was
So
here.
we had a whole party of people
Yeah.
here, and John was here too, and we watched it, and it was great. It was so horrible.
And
it
no
was
one
great.
watched it but Kyle, who followed it like to the T. Like
he
was
was like, I
very
know what's
invested.
The movie was a series of fake outs where they continuously were like, actually that was all a dream. Well, because I think the plot was that they were making a movie inside of a high school.
They were making
Yeah.
a movie inside the high school.
So they kept faking you out about what was a movie.
Yeah,
and what
some
wasn't.
things were real and some things were fake.
It sucked, but it was super Halloweeny and fun and
Yep.
great. And also, if you watch every year, Nina and I watch Monster Madness on Cinemassacre.com. It's that guy who does the Angry Video Game Nerd reviews. This guy is fucking impressive.
It's phenomenally Halloweeny spooky. It will get you. Everyone who loves those countdowns, like ABC Family 13 Days of Halloween
30,
or
right?
31 Days.
Yeah.
Well, some of them do different
I
lengths
see.
depending on how much they're willing to invest in that.
Yeah.
Disney always does 31 Days, I think. If you just like a countdown and you kind of want to get in the mood, it's like a few minutes a day of like a really great video with some.
And for a guy who produces like a lot of his own content, I don't know how he takes the time out of his schedule.
There's so much like history and trivia and like facts.
I'm just imagining just like capturing the movie into your computer and then editing with it, and like he just puts together this big package. But basically every single day he reviews a different horror movie, and he's done it for 7 years, meaning like 7 times 30
Whoa.
or 31 or
That's a
whatever
lot.
it is. It's the first year it was all the most like,
It was all the classics, which is
classics.
great.
This is a history of horror.
Yeah.
And then the next year it was I believe it was like all Godzilla films.
Yep.
And then the next year it was like honorable mentions. We didn't say the first year.
Yep.
And then it was like B-movie camp.
Yes.
And then it was sequel-a-thon, all the sequels to the movies that we've talked about. And then it was 80s, just 80s shit.
Yep.
And now it's he's back to sequels too.
Oh God, I just want to go and like watch them all again now.
They're all really fun. So that's some of the Halloween shit we've got going on. Also, Nina's got her polka dot pumpkins outside. I'm kind of bummed about the polka dot idea though.
What?
Because every year you always put together like a little, like my very last memory of Halloween before we go to bed is like I go outside and look at Nina's jack-o'-lantern lit for the first time, keeping the demons away and shit. And
Sometimes they're still lit in the morning when
this
you
year
leave.
there's going to be a little polka dot on it, and I'm just going to be a little let down.
All right, I'll surprise you. I'll try to
Yeah.
do something that'll
Surprise me.
that'll be up to your standards.
It can be whatever. I just think a little light needs to happen. You need to. It's kind of like the little Satan's morning star.
Well, they're going to be lit up. I'm doing polka dots poked out, and then they'll be like lanterns.
Well, to me, a polka dot is something that's colored. Not just a dot, not just a hole.
Well, yeah, but then they're going to glow because they're going to have the candles inside.
Like
so
colored
they'll be
candles. Is that the idea?
No.
What's the vision for these pumpkins?
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart online. You'll see.
I'm gonna have to take a look at them. But yeah, sounds.
Frankie's
good.
very, very skeptical of these pumpkins. You know.
She can do whatever she wants, but she bought some.
He has. We have a long history of Frankie being skeptical. I've either explained things badly or he didn't understand what I was saying, and then everything comes together and it's all fine.
Sometimes.
90% of the time.
Yeah, 90%.
Those 10% are horrific failures, but for that reason, he does not remember that 90% of the time is all
Everything's
good.
fine.
Like when she made me these like vegan chocolate chip cookies, and they were like it was like eating like an old person's ass.
90% of the time, totally fine. One bad set of cookies in 14 years. And I'm getting shit for it. 13
not too
years.
bad.
I don't know how many years. 8 million
A
years.
lot of years.
I think
You
we're
made some-
13.
you made some pretty killer jack-o'-lanterns last year, I remember.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, I just really what I'm saying is I want to like just match that or even a little lower. But
See what it is? It's my own standards. I
Yeah.
screwed myself
Yep.
It's a
this
good
year.
feeling to go to bed looking at them.
Keeping the spirits away, as we learned from Trick or Treat. You don't blow that shit out early, or you get stabbed. Bitch gets stabbed.
Bitch gets dead.
Did you buy any like Halloween junk this year?
No, nothing.
Normally
You didn't even buy a
plates or
Halloween
something.
placemat
Yeah.
at like at
No.
a church fair.
I guess there's no point. There's no Junt Halloween party.
No. And like last year, I had bought some decorations at the previous Christmas fair, and I set them out, and no one enjoyed them except myself. And I was like, that was a little depressing.
Well, the only person that would really is your dad.
Yeah.
And he's not gonna be like, nice Halloween placemat,
He
Jay.
doesn't care.
I kind of had a hard
Kind of a
time this
down
year.
note to,
I didn't really feel like doing it this year. It just seemed like a lot of work. I'm getting old before my time.
The whole pod was a down note because it sounded like a fun idea to talk about murder.
Yeah.
And then we did, and it was like, this is in bad taste, you guys.
we could we didn't talk about the recent murder, so we did okay.
That's true. As long as it's a few years have passed, it's a Burger King. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, a few years from now, everybody will talk about Murder High.
I'll tell you what we got to do is actually, you know what? I think that's what it was called. Was Murder High.
Murder High. Okay.
That movie.
So we'll talk about real life Murder High in a few
I tell you what we
years.
got to do sometime is go back to Salem because we went to Salem for
That was fun.
for the movie. It was a lot of fun. It was very atmospheric that day. But go back to Salem and go into that dog costume store. The whole store was dog costumes.
Yeah.
But the ship sailed on Salem this year. We went to shoot a movie and we came back.
Why do we have to go in October? I mean, we should go in November where no one's going to be there.
Well, as long as it's Halloweeny, I don't give a shit. But if
Yeah.
it's not Halloweeny, I'm not in.
It's Salem.
Come on. You got to go.
I think they turn off the spigot after Halloween.
He's right, man.
I think they like
There's
they'll
always
go back
gonna,
to normal.
There's always
still.
going to be a certain level. Like we went in the summer the first time that we went, like in high school, and that
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Yeah.
We went in like August. It was hot as ass.
It's Aaron. I'm going to pick up just so we can say hi. Hello, Aaron. Hey, we were just recording a podcast. We didn't know if you wanted to Skype in with us, but now you're on the podcast right now.
Oh, son of a bitch.
We were telling.
Get out of,
You're on the air.
Oh, you just saw Bad Grandpa?
yes. Have you had a chance to see it yet?
Not yet.
One of the funniest movies you've seen in a long time.
I have no doubt. It's my kind of thing. Hey, listen, we were doing a Halloween episode on like murders that took place in restaurants or just bad service or spooky service. You got any stories like that?
Spooky service. Not a single story. Not a single story.
You're just like this when you get the shittiest service or you show up to a restaurant and there's nobody there.
Oh, well, China Bell. With Chris Shaleski and I, it's always rumored that this place is like a drug hunt of some sort. So we go in there. There's never a single car in there. We see ourselves. There's no hostess. It's a ghost restaurant. And We were there for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we start to just get up and look around ourselves to figure out what the hell is going on. And as we approach the kitchen door, like the swinging doors, it's like a small glass into the kitchen. Like an old grandma comes out, like not ready to serve anybody, not ready to be a hostess to anybody, and we ran. Never any service, never any food.
You ran like all the way down the street. You're like both panting, and you're like, we can never talk about this again.
And we can't go back for the car.
Out of the front door.
And then it cuts to like you're adults, and like somebody has to testify. So this can't happen to anybody else.
We're getting ready for bed, looking in the mirror, and we're shaving, and then we see like a quick glimpse of the grandma.
When you close the mirror, you turn around. There's nobody there. She's in a nightgown. She's stumbling around her kitchen.
With Chinese to-go corn.
All right, so that's the end. That's the end of the pod. But we should do a How Are We soon now that shooting's over.
Yeah, sure. Let me know. We're down that area all the time. Maybe next weekend.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Right.
And goodbye to you, dear listeners.
Goodbye.
Happy Halloween.
Whoa. Oh,
Keep the spirits away. Pressure your wife into making better jack-o'-lanterns.
Oh.
I'm kidding. I'm sure the polka dots are going to be horrifying. All right. Bye.
Asshole.